Hey, how you guys doing? Welcome to the worst reviews ever. I got the Manic Genius in the building. I got Phil in here. We got Casey Fred, and we got a new addition, Aim H. So before we start the slides and we get to the ratings and stuff, how's everybody doing?
Good, man. Good.
Good.
Real good.
All right, man. So we saw Casey Fred. He's coming back with the Chiefs jersey, our shirt on.
Man.
At least you ain't rubbing in about my Giants, man. So I appreciate that. It was a little rough week. Manic and Phil gave us.
It's a rough week for the Jets too.
I think
For
all
the
y'all
Jets.
teams
No,
lost.
no, the Jets won. Jets won, man. On Monday.
They gonna lose though.
You crazy. Y'all smoking. But all right, we'll go ahead. I'll pull up the slides. We'll go ahead in there. Manic, if you go ahead and read the first one, I'll do the director and cast slide, and then we'll jump into the ratings. So let me pull those up real quick. Let me know if you're ready. Can you see it?
Yeah, I can see it. The title of the movie is called Your Place or Mine. Your Place or Mine is a 2023 American romantic comedy film written and directed by Elaine Brosh and McKenna, or Aline Brosh McKenna in her directorial debut. Debbie and Peter are best friends and total opposites. She craves routine with her son in LA. He thrives on change in New York. When they swap houses and lives for a week, they discover that they might want to be more than just best friends.
All right, I appreciate that. Let me go ahead and pull up the directors and producers. So I'll go ahead and knock this out. So directed and written by Aline Brosh McKenna. Produced by and produced by Jason Bateman, Michael Costajan, Reese Witherspoon, Lauren Nudestader, and again Aline Brosh McKenna. Is a line. Somebody.
No, you're probably right. Aline definitely sounds more like the name.
Yeah. Okay.
Like
I appreciate y'all for messing me up. All right, we'll go ahead and jump into the cast slide. So for the cast, we have Reese Witherspoon as Debbie Dunn, Ashton Kutcher as Peter Coleman, Zoe Chow as Minka, Jesse Williams as Theo Martin, Wesley Kimmel as Jack, Tig Notaro as Alicia, Steve Zahn as Zen, Rachel Bloom as Scarlett, Griffin Matthews as Professor Golden, Vila Lavelle as Becca, and Sherry Appleby as Vanessa. Then, all right, we're going to get to the important part, the rating. So, all right, here's the movie rating scale, and we're going to go to Casey Fred first on this one. What you rate this movie as?
5.5.
Instead of 5.5. So if you could see the scale, that's right in between. That's average. So, that's between bad and good. So he gave it a 5.5. All right. The new addition, Aim H. What you rate this as?
6.2.
All right. So you got it in a good territory with a 6.2. All right, I'm kind of want to go to Phil last, man. That's the hardest rater ever. We call him Mr. Outlier, huh?
Go to him next.
All right, Phil, go ahead. What you rate this movie?
I'm gonna give it a 5, bro.
Okay, a 5. So you got it between bad and average.
Yeah.
All right, Mr. The Manic Genius. What you rate this as?
I rate this as a 7.5.
7.5.
Yeah.
Did you drink earlier? Well, that's between them.
Or he had a date during the movie.
Well, he rated it as a very good territory.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to give this a 5.2, which is in the average territory. So the Manic Genius, you're definitely the outlier on this one. So we'll go to you first, and then we'll have Phil, since he's the other outlier. Well, he was with majority of us. So we'll go to him next after you.
All
the floor is yours.
So I'm a big romantic comedy fan. That's my genre. I felt like this one was less of a romantic comedy and more of just a romance movie. Like, I thought it was very well put together. The acting was phenomenal on all parties. There was no, there was no, acting issues with me. They picked really strong actors that carried this movie, and they did an excellent job. Um, the scene transitions were really good, and they essentially did a really good job of explaining the relationship dynamics that both of the people had, and there wasn't really much left up for
He was definitely
question
drinking.
at the end of the movie. So I think that with the strong acting cast, I mean, it was like most romantic movies. You can kind of see the plot, or not the plot. You could kind of how the ending is going to end, but I think it was an enjoyable journey getting there.
You sounded like a true movie critic. You get kind of good at this, man. All right, Phil. Why did you rate this 5?
I give it a 5 because I've seen 1,000 movies like this one. I mean, it's not anything special.
Shout out to Phil.
I gave it a 5 because, like, as a kid, Ashton Kutcher was in multiple movies like this. Then Reese Witherspoon is another actress I liked coming up. She was in a bunch of whole chick flicks, and I got really into chick flicks, obviously, because of the woman I dated and everything like that. So the romantic comedy thing to side with Manic, it's not as bad. I actually tend to like some of that stuff and kind of follow the story, but I only gave it a 5 because it was so consistently, like, they've done this so many times. So I can predicted what was going to happen from the beginning to the end, but that's why.
Okay. Aim H, why did you give this a 6.2? Put it in a good territory.
I gave it a 6.2 because I agree with actually both Manic and Phil. I thought it was very predictable. But I also love Reese and Ashton. I feel like I know them. Like we're friends because I've watched so many of their movies. So I feel like if there was a twist, could we consider it a rom-com? Because I know we'll get into that later, but I also feel like she would have been such a great match with Theo, just because of all their same interests. So I really struggled with that, but I thought it was a great movie. Well, average for that, but yeah, 6.2.
All right. Casey Fred.
Yeah, I gave it a 5.5 because, if truth be told, I just have seen 100 of these, and it's usually they all come around Christmas time. So, in fact, it won't even be Halloween, and they're already going to be kicking this stuff off. I was kind of upset because, if truth be told, I'm like, okay, we know these two, Reese and Ashton. Come on, bring the heat, bring the chemistry. I feel like it should have been more. And then, which we're going to talk about the plot, it don't take no 20 years for you to finally realize that, hey, you and me supposed to be together. I mean, they should have, I don't know. I just feel like there's a whole bunch of stuff, holes in here that I was just like, I can't wait for us to hear and talk about this because, like I said, 5.5, I couldn't get it no higher. They should have did more, and they just kind of like just let it be, and it just fell flat for me. So that's where I'm at.
I'll go ahead and give my breakdown. Then we'll jump into the open discussion questions. So, yeah, I had to give it a 5.2. I did want to kind of give it put it in the bad territory. So I was going to go like 4.8, but I think the actors was pretty solid. So, like y'all said, like I think Reese Witherspoon and Ashton Kutcher definitely solid, actors and actresses. So I'm kind of disappointed in I'll say the storyline for that caliber of, I'll say, people that we kind of like grew up with.
Right.
So I think in this movie, it was just kind of flat and predictable. Yeah. And, I think they missed some opportunities with the storyline to probably put a twist in there. Right. So I think it was just so predictable. Like, you knew how it was going to play out.
Yeah.
They kind of made my man Ashton Kutcher a little cheesy in here, with his storyline. Like he was hitting that like I say sucker territory. So, I didn't like that aspect. But Yeah, we'll go ahead and start jumping into the open discussion questions because I know like a lot of people wanted to break down the storyline and speak on the plot. So I think that's where everybody's kind of getting towards. So let me go ahead and, pull that up. So the first, I'll say open discussion question, and I'll ask you guys, and I'll start from the bottom up with you, Fred. Would you recommend this movie to anyone?
Yeah, I would definitely recommend the movie as long as it stays on Netflix. I would not recommend this for anything that you had to pay. That was just, like I said, too predictable. And I just felt like you said, for the caliber of actors and actresses that was involved, I just felt like, man, I wished it would have been some greater twists, some turns, more than what was there. But yeah, I would definitely recommend it for Netflix. I mean, you can sit back, watch it first time, but you don't have to pay no money. That's where I'm at.
My man, Casey Fred loves some free stuff, man. I'm telling you. Mini series and free. That's his MO. All right, AMH, would you recommend this movie to anyone?
Yes, I would. I enjoyed it, and I would recommend it.
Like, who would you recommend it to?
Everybody. Anybody. I'm gonna make a social post on social media to watch it.
Oh yeah. Hopefully you only have like 2 friends or something. All right, Phil, would you recommend this movie to anyone?
I would recommend this movie to people who are unsure about the person that they got feelings for, as an example of not to wait too long. So those
okay. So like an instructional guide or something, a guide in life.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. What about you, Mr. Very Good Territory?
Absolutely. I would recommend this movie to everybody. And this movie, especially, I would recommend it to everybody, first and foremost. Definitely as a Netflix movie. And I would even go to say, as far as to say, I would even recommend it in theaters if you're in a relationship with somebody, because, like I said, this was a romantic comedy, but it was more on the lines of just a romantic movie, with some comedy elements, which I thought they did an excellent job with. I recommend it definitely for couples because there's just opportunities to just break down the movie afterwards to talk about, like, hey, during this scene or this scenario, is that realistic? Is that not realistic? And there are a lot of moments, I'll get into that later, but a lot of unrealistic moments.
I gotta give you a little pushback. No, I wouldn't recommend this to anybody. But you said to the movie theater?
Oh yeah,
they gotta go and pay.
Yeah, they gotta go as
hard-earned money.
Yeah.
At the movie theater. You'll recommend that?
Oh yeah. If you're going with a couple, if you're going by yourself, then no. But if you're going with your significant other or somebody you're interested in, absolutely, I'd recommend this movie in theaters.
They're gonna swing on you. People will be trying to fight you out here, man.
Now they're gonna, like Phil said, they're gonna come out, as an example of like not to wait too long. It's gonna bring some interesting conversations afterward on the drive home. All that.
Okay, I get that aspect. Okay,
recommend.
So like an icebreaker type thing and life guidance. Okay, I got y'all. So I'm gonna go ahead and start with you, man. Would you ever watch this movie again?
Yeah.
Okay. I wouldn't. So I'll go ahead and pass it to Phil. Would you ever watch this again?
With my girl, yes. By myself, no.
Okay. I like that.
Yep.
What about you, AMH? Would you watch this movie again?
I've actually already watched it a few times, so.
you dedicated to the cause, huh? The rom-coms all day, huh?
I liked it. I kind of actually feel bad I feel like maybe I should have scored it higher. Yeah, I liked it. I watched it a few times already.
Yeah, he was kind of low. I was kind of shocked with you. But all right, Casey, Fred, would you ever watch this movie again?
No, once is good enough. It felt like a soap opera to me. I already knew what was getting ready to go down before it even happened. So it was just like, it would have been different if it had a different twist. But it was like I already saw it coming.
I think my man Phil upset today that y'all like kind of in line with each other. Phil looking a little upset.
This will happen. Watch.
All right. So for the third question, what do you think about the plot or the storyline? And I'll go to Phil first for that.
So it kind of threw me off. Like in the beginning, with their whole little friendship, I thought like they were in the same city, you know, something. But then like the whole like him coming to take care of the son, it was like, okay, well, that's it kind of threw me off. But then when she ended up meeting old boy, to Amy's point, it was kind of like, well, I felt bad for him. Like this man like was really invested in that, and he was like, oh, I'm with her, only for her to turn around and be like, but I like this dude. So like really, the storyline was kind of, it was a typical storyline. To KC's point, I knew from the beginning what was going to happen as soon as it started. I'm like, oh, they're on FaceTime. I don't care who she's with. They're friends. They're going to end up together, and that's it. Period. So
Thank you, Phil. Appreciate that.
Foreshadowing, I knew from the gate what was going to happen. So I would have changed it to make it more of a mystery than that easily told.
Yeah, I'm definitely interested on the last question to see everybody's changes to the movie. Because I got some good changes. All right, Amy, what did you think about the plot or storyline?
I liked it, but again, I agree. It was like you knew what was going to happen from the very beginning. But I really liked the piece that they incorporated with Peter and his like rebranding. So that was his thing. And he would talk about all the rebranding stuff. And then even when he went to breakfast with the son, and he was talking about rebranding for the son to try to get these friends or whatever. But then he was like, let's use your mom, for example. She wanted to be X, Y, and Z, and now she's just like this typical person. But at the end, they wrap around with that when Alicia mentions the same thing to Peter. And he said something about everybody tells a better story about like other people versus themselves or something. So I like the way all that tied together. So I like the plot and storyline, and I think it tied a whole bunch of pieces back together. But I also did notice, I think Phil made the point earlier, I don't remember, but when they were like, why did it take so long for them to get together? But Peter actually says at the end of the movie that he knew he was in love with her for like many, many years when he was like, after she first picked him up from his second stint at rehab, he was going to tell her and confess his feelings, but then she was pregnant. So he knew a long time. It just dawned on her at the end. So I thought it was a good plot.
Casey Fred, what did you think about the plot or the
Jerk, you seem
storyline?
upset. You seem upset that this is such a good movie.
Nah, me and Manic Genius was arguing about this earlier. I was like, you crazy. All right, Casey Fred, what did you think about the plot or the storyline?
I just thought it was average. I just thought it was predictable. You already saw it coming. I mean, the only thing that was missing was the snowflakes, man. I mean, it was just like you knew what time it was. Like I said, I just for those two to be so famous and so out there, I kind of wish they would have took a different turn or a different twist to it. And so that would have been like having an aha moment. But to me, there was no aha moment. You knew exactly that there was going to always be something that was going to bring them together at the end. And long behold, it's nothing like a good accident. You know what I'm saying? Somebody gets hurt to all of a sudden finally bring out, the truth. And so I just felt like I said, you saw it coming. He was like, okay, here comes the car crash. I'm ready for it. Boom, it was there. And so that's where I was at, man. Like I said, it was just 5.5.
Yeah,
I couldn't get no higher than that. I don't know why, but I just could not get any higher than that. So,
all right, I'll go ahead and break down my plot or storyline, and I'll kick it over to the Manic Genius because I know he was definitely feeling this movie. Yeah, I thought the plot or the storyline was pretty weak. Like y'all said, I mean, just too predictable. And then I mean, you had Ashton, his character, Peter, whatever his name was. He was kind of at his peak. Like I was telling Manic, because we were arguing about this earlier, and I was like, man, this should have been a short, time. Like he woke up in the bed next to the one chick he was dating that had her stuff together. And she was like, "Hey, what's kind of going on between us?" He said, "Like, oh, we're together." Like, the end. That that should have been the end of the movie, man. There should have been some little biracial kids running around the crib and all that. So, yeah, nah, I thought how they kind of made him just always waiting around and stuff. And like you said, Fred, towards the end, like I think it was Amy that was like pointed it out. Like she finally came to it and realized that. So I didn't like that whole aspect where it's just like here she had, kind of went through life, don't got her stuff together, but here he is like at the peak and he's just waiting around to confess his love and stuff, missing all these opportunities. I'm like, yeah, okay. So that just kind of killed it for me. So yeah, I thought the storyline was just too unbelievable and it didn't really connect. I think they were just like trying to force it too much. Then make, put her on that kind of that pedestal type thing and stuff. So I think they just missed the opportunity for them to like, kind of make them like move in different directions and stuff like that. But I'll go ahead and toss it to the Manic Genius. What did you think about the plot or the storyline?
So from the time I read the title, Your Place or Mine, I assumed that these two would probably get together at the end. And, that's the storyline, two best friends and realizing that they actually have deep feelings for each other and they fall in love and ride off into the sunset. So that's what I expected to happen. And that's exactly what happened. And I wasn't mad at it because it wasn't reinventing the wheel. And it's like, hey, you have an overarching narrative and you're going to go with it. And I felt like the plot leading up to all the events did an excellent job of staying within that narrative and explaining just how, complex or simple their relationship really was based on all the details that they gave. Like, yeah, you can look at it from an overarching and be like, oh man, this was not complex at all. This was very simple. They both like each other, so they just move on. And then the movie explains later in the scenes that, hey, it's a bit more complicated than that. Like Peter, who's the successful guy that we see in this stage in his life, was at some point a fuck up to where he had to go to rehab, not once, but twice. And she was there to bail him out. Like she was the one picking him up. And then they let you know that like, hey, this is somebody that he can really rely on. And you don't know, like she just seems like a really good friend. It seems like they did have a relationship. He's the one who, ran out the door, cut it off. So it's just like, okay, maybe she still has feelings for him and stuff like that. But somehow they kept that relationship going and, you just don't know. So there were plenty of opportunities in this whole movie for them to like mess it up and, do the typical rom-com thing. And they really didn't. They really went their own route to describe like a very unique situation. Now, when you think about it, how realistic it is, that's a completely different discussion. But from the opening scene, it's this man's birthday. He's laying on the phone talking to her, and you're thinking, oh, they got this connection going. Okay, I can see this. They're already setting it up. And then you see the full picture of the scene, and then you see he's laying next to a completely different girl. So it's just like, that's not only a good scene, that's the opening scene. And it goes perfect with the narrative of throwing you off of like, hey, just when you think something is something, he's got a whole girl and his whole girl is okay with him having this type of relationship. And she's okay with seeing him in bed with another girl. So it's like, what really dynamic do they really have? And I think the movie uses the next scenes throughout the entire movie to showcase really how complex their relationship is. So I thought it was an excellent plot storyline.
Where do I start?
Can I add something really quick too?
Yeah, go ahead.
After Martin saying all that stuff, I don't know. Probably. Oh, sorry, Manic. After him saying all this stuff, probably also like, did you realize they did 6 months for like everything? Like his relationships were 6 months, 6 months, 6 months. And then after 6 months, they always broke up. But then at the very end of the movie, when they were like 6 months later. So I felt like they did take the whole relationship throughout the time and tie up a whole bunch of loose ends that always kind of like a feedback loop that always closed.
Yeah. Now, I didn't catch that at the end, but yeah, that is a good point because they did keep mentioning that his relationships only lasted 6 months, and then they did tie that in. Yeah.
Yep.
Terrible point.
That was an excellent point to support why this movie I know. The more I'm talking about it, I might have to move this up to an 8.
So
I'm
saying,
gonna we're gonna jump into number 4. What scenes are actresses performances stuck out? It is gonna kind of tie in because I did want to give you some pushback. I mean, I get what you guys are saying. Like they had that connection with each other, but that part where like he was like in her house watching his son, and then he caught that video glimpse of her like getting picked up around his place, and it was going down. It would have been a wrap. Like it's like not only do you kind of got married, had a kid and stuff like moved on, but now it's just like come on, man. Like my man would have been done with that, like in his place and stuff. Yeah, I think they just added too many elements where I thought that was a bad scene. Definitely stuck out because it was just like, hey, men, we're pretty territorial, so like even if you had a deep connection or something like that, you would have at that point you'd be like, you know what, I got to move on. So for it to keep moving forward like that, I think they're like if they would have introduced that scene, then I think definitely that there should have been like a different twist to the movie. And I kind of get deeper to that in the last question, but that scene definitely stuck out. And then I think the scene where she kind of ran into the whole, I'll say the book editor or the book writer guy that she been kind of like following. I did like that scene, how he kind of came about and came into the picture and stuff like that when they were at the club. So I thought that was pretty cool. So yeah, those were the 2 scenes that stuck out. But yeah, I had to give you some pushback on that plot line because that's why I was like, that was just too unbelievable. Because
yeah, I said there were certain parts that were just unrealistic, but I said I'll get to that later. I agree with you on that.
Yeah, because
would have been like, hey, that's it. and any love I thought I had, seeing her get carried out.
So it's a wrap. But I'll go ahead and pass it to you, Manic. What scenes or performances stuck out in this movie?
I think there were several scenes that stuck out. Just the whole relationship with Minka, that really stuck out because as soon as she came into the fold, I was just like, okay, she's here to like, check out her competition, because she actually really did like him. Check out the competition, and I figured, okay, she's gonna befriend her and then sabotage her at the end. Like, and she really didn't do that. The only thing she like kind of sabotaged was, told him that, hey, she submitted your book, and like, oh, I hope you're not too mad, but if you are, then like I'm still here. So, just her whole character stuck out because she was really a catalyst in a lot of the things that happened. And it was really good because how else is Reese Witherspoon going to get around the city and kind of, it would have been a really boring movie if Minka wasn't, if her character wasn't in there. Another scene that stuck out was the conversation Peter, the main lead had with Zen, the guy who just would do the garden. He's like, hey man, this guy is out here doing this garden, being a nice guy. Let me just give him a beer and just we'll have like a man-to-man conversation and just like, I appreciate you. I didn't know who you were. You were kind of weird, but no, you're actually okay. You're still doing the yard and stuff. And he just lets him know like, hey, yeah, I'm just here, but I sleep with her every once in a while. I want more, but I'm okay with accepting this. And I think over time she's gonna, allow me to be more than just friends with benefits. And he was just like, I thought you were just a weirdo dude who liked doing the garden. Like you're knocking this down too. Like, so it just, and then it zoomed in on, Ashton Kutcher's face. Like, he's like, oh, wait a minute. This is exactly what I expected from what I suspected when I first came here and seen him in the yard. Like, why are you here?
I see, man. I gotta real quick. I didn't get that from that scene. I thought he was just like he was like, man, I want to be more, I want to be a friends with Benny's, but
no, he wanted more. He was already friends with benefits. And
I was gonna say you just broke my heart because all the times I seen it, I didn't take it that way either.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to tell Manic. I was like, man, I think he took it that wrong way. I'm gonna have to go back and watch it. I think you're just wrong on this. I think he was just like imagining he was being with her.
Huh?
He said he was a part-time lover, but I just took it as talk.
Yeah, that's why I thought in his head he thought they was together.
Yeah. He said I'm her part-time lover, but I want to be more. And then he reiterated it because I was a little confused too. I'm like, wait, is he saying he wants to be her part-time lover and he's okay with it? And then he's like, Larry, I'll just take friends with benefits I'll just accept my role. Yeah,
I think you're right, actually, because I remember it, and
yeah.
I didn't
We
catch
gotta
it.
watch
Nah,
that
he's not
scene
right.
again.
I'm telling you, I think he was like working himself into it, like, oh, I'll just take that
No.
late. I'll take that. Nah, I'm telling you.
The
Like he
reason
was
why I
faking
think
it to the world.
the reason why I feel like that was a scenario was because how the camera angle zoomed in on, Ashton Kutcher's face. And like when he came to the realization, like, hey, this dude is actually hitting this. Like, so it's like, I think if they wouldn't have zoomed in on Ashton Kutcher and like made him have that, like, oh my gosh, the realization of like, hey, I was right. Like she is getting it on with this dude. If they wouldn't have did that moment and he would have just said it and they would just let it slide, then it's like, okay, they're not doing anything. But to just her character, it wouldn't be out of bounds how she operates. She was only in New York for a week, and she already was like sleeping
Getting them
with
boots knocked like H-Town.
yeah, in a place that's not even hers. Like, so it's just like she's
Shorty was for the streets. Now that
yeah,
I'm thinking about it.
yeah.
That was one of my changes.
She's
Jumping
definitely
ahead.
yeah, she's definitely for the streets. So that scene, and then the last scene that stuck out to me was when he finally let Jack or when he, hey, Jack, you going to the hockey. I know it's something that you really wanted to do. And then Jack was really good. Like, I think they could have, like, especially in comedies, like they a lot of times try to make every single scene funny and go over the top. And I was expecting, I was like, man, this is a romantic comedy. Of course, Jack is going to get on the ice and he can barely move and he's going to be completely trash. It's going to be so trash that it's hilarious, or they're going to try to make it hilarious. But nah, they allowed him to actually be good. And it worked because it was like one less thing that you got to explain and like, spend time on, because the main focus of the movie is the relationship between. And it's just like, he just bought all the buy-in. Because after that, he gave all these nicknames to Jack. Jack was like, no, try again. No, no. He's like, man, you're Jack Frost because you're just out there on the ice, just killing it. He's just like, yeah. It's like, so it's like he unlocked another level with Jack in that moment. So that was a scene that stuck out. You can tell I really like this movie.
Yeah. I'm like, God, you make bad sound really good. All right,
It's a
Phil.
good movie.
What did you think about what scenes or performances stuck out? Yeah, my bad.
So the one that stuck out for me was like the relationship between him and Reese Witherspoon's son. That was like, I was like, okay, cool. I like how the whole dynamic, and when he gave him a hug and everything, I was like, oh, that's cute. But what stuck out me the most was the ending, right? When she was completely shocked that after 20 years, she had no way of knowing that this dude had feeling. That's a fucking lie. I don't give a fuck who you are. You are going to know. Woman, male, it does not matter. Like the fact that she did not know that I was like, how is that possible? How the hell is that possible after 20 years? Like you guys had something in the beginning, and then 20 years go by and you're like, we're like best friends. Get the fuck out of here. Nah, that's bullshit. She knew. She was just playing games, and all them years went by, and he's like, look, now I'm telling you. Now she's like, well, look, I already had this other dude. So I guess, now that I went out and did my thing, I'm gonna go ahead and settle with you. Now that I went out and lived my life in the streets, now I'm gonna come back to you, the good guy, the one I should be with, and settle down. Like a typical everyday story between a lot of women. Amy, no offense, but a lot of women out there will be like, look, I'm gonna go do my thing, I'm gonna go have fun, and then that whole I'm gonna do the bad guy thing, right? And then I'm gonna go back to the good guy when I'm all done. When I'm done with the streets, then I'm gonna go back to the good guy, and that's what this movie screamed for me. So
it's realistic. Okay, I like that.
it's just for real. Like,
that's what I was saying with Phil, man. That's what it was. It's like, man, here's this sucker, and man, so that's what I got with the storyline. So I think Phil's like spot on.
I'd like to make an amendment to my original rating. I'd like to boost it up by +6 points, so I have it as scored at 8.1 for the record.
No changes. You're still at a 7.5. But all right, Aim H, what scenes or performances stuck out to you?
I also liked the scene with Jack at the hockey. Whenever there was one point when Peter went to talk to the coach and Jack was outside waiting, and he looked so nervous, and when he knew that he actually could be part of the team or try out or what have you, he just looked so happy. So I really liked that scene. I also did like the scene when he gave him a hug, when Jack gave Peter the hug as well after everything went the way they wanted it to that day. Of course, I liked the girl scenes that there was like multiple girl relationships where they were actual friends with each other versus like Manic said, you would have thought Minga at first maybe was gonna sabotage, but she didn't. Um which I still would have to cut that relationship off. I think it was kind of weird and like if it was to happen. But I did like the way they were all friends with each other. I did again, like I mentioned earlier, I liked the scene when Peter was talking to Jack and he had mentioned just how people tell very self-limiting stories about themselves, and then kind of go in alignment with the stories they tell versus what they truly is. So I thought that was a really good scene. I also really like the scene on, I think Reese Witherspoon always kind of plays like in her other movies as well as this one, kind of like just like a super peppy, wholesome girl. And I like the scene when she first went out with a date with Theo and she came out with her little black dress and just looked very classy and gorgeous. So I like that scene also.
Yeah, she had on mom jeans for majority of the movie. I spotted that.
I'm gonna have to make
Denim.
another amendment to my score. I'm gonna remove those +6 points that I added based on
Yeah.
Aim H's assessment of their female friendship, because females who like the same dude can't be friends.
Absolutely.
I mean, I definitely don't
Deductive.
think they should be friends. Oh, one thing though, if we're gonna talk about genders, I also thought it was kind of funny how Zen mentioned to Peter that he was like a self-made millionaire from like he was like letting him know right from the beginning, like I'm rich, dude. So she may really want me. And then he definitely let him know during their beer conversation that he is playing the long game. And I think that's when Peter realized, like, dang, this definitely could go the opposite way of me wanting it. And I felt like that was like typical man scene.
Two millionaires is sitting there fighting.
No, the typical man was right when he meets each other, he lets him know like I'm rich too. And I feel like that's typical man. And then going to the other scene, he's basically like, if Manic was correct and they actually were sleeping together, like just so you know, I already got this. So
Yeah,
like it seemed like they were kind
like
of
popping his
combating
collar.
each other. Yes, yes.
Yeah, that was a funny scene. I ain't gonna lie. But all right, let me get Fred in here. What scenes or performances stuck out to you?
First of all, I like to amend my 5.5 and break it down to a 5.0.
Yeah. I am now at a 4.8.
So the scenes, I don't know. I always got a theme. And for me, the theme for me for these scenes is I call it why are you lying, bro? So I think that's to me what I was feeling, the vibe, because it was just like you kept saying all these different things about Jake, the son, but then you really do find out that thanks to Peter, he tries out for the hockey team and he's really good. But supposedly before that, there's all these things. He's allergic to grass. He's allergic to this. Don't give him peanut butter, all this other crazy stuff. So you just think, man, something's wrong with this kid. And the reality of it is he just hadn't found this niche. And when he did, it was like, boom, he took off from there. So that stuck out for me. Another one was I thought Peter was a sucker, and then come find out he's got an unpublished book in the oven, thanks to Mika pointing it out. And she tells Debbie, was like, oh yeah, Peter's not he doesn't write books. He doesn't write books. And she was like, how well do you know him? Oh, I know him. I've been knowing him forever. And she just happens to open up the oven and there's this, unpublished book just sitting there waiting. And then there was another one. Peter keeping this flame thing going for 20 years. I'm sorry. What guy do you know is holding a flame for a woman for 20 years? I don't know. And not saying anything. I mean,
Absolutely none. Casey, Fred. Excellent observation.
And then I thought the other one was, and this was the one that got me, to me, I felt like it was the climax when Jake actually got hurt. Okay, the boy's really good at hockey, but he gets hurt, and it's that very moment that leads to all of a sudden Debbie and Peter finally expressing their true feelings. Because if the truth be told, before that, they were going back and forth. And if it wasn't for that accident drawing them finally in the same place at the same time, and I thought how ironic it was that it would be the airport where people are coming and going left and right, but yet all of a sudden they had to get off the walking escalator and then literally face each other and say, okay, stop lying, bro. Tell me how you really feel. And then, okay, here comes the truth. And so that's what's all the scenes that kind of lined up for me as far as, okay, let's get beyond all this line. We think we know each other, but the truth is we really don't, and we need to express how we really feel. So that's what I thought.
I appreciate you for
Thank you very much.
Thank you for that excellent observation. No guy. That was the answer to your question. All right, so we'll move into the last question. If you were the director or the producer of this movie, what would you change or do differently? Coming to you first, Aim H.
So since we talked about it a little bit earlier, Debbie definitely would not have slept with Theo on the very first date. Everybody knows what that brings upon life.
For the streets.
So I would have changed that. The escalator scene, or not the escalator, but the walking. I don't know what those things are called at the airport. But anybody that travels knows they are never in order at the same time. One is always broke down and under construction, no matter what airport you go to. So I felt like that was completely unrealistic. So yeah, so the sleeping together again, I still really feel like Debbie and Theo would have made such a great match. I think they had so much in common for the lover of books purpose. And then also they both had, Theo also said he had like a 14-year-old son, I believe. They just had a ton of common. So I just struggled back and forth like, oh man, maybe they should have been together. But then of course it would have defeated the whole purpose of the movie. And then I might have been upset if she didn't end up with Ashton Kutcher. So I feel like they should have made that connection less. So it would leave people not wanting, an alternate route.
So that would have been your change overall. Yeah, because I thought we was making a comeback in this movie. I was all excited.
Yeah. I mean, he was like the only brother in the movie.
But a lot of movies, like when they, like a lot of movies I feel that have the exact same plot, they don't make the other guy that much of a good match, where I feel like they actually would have been a good match. I don't know if anybody noticed this at the end, which I really had to pay attention to because I just thought it was interesting. But at the end, when they're wrapping everything up, I was literally looking to see where they said that Ashton becomes the writer and then she becomes the publisher. And I looked to see like at that place because that would be weird where Theo worked. And it said an indie publishing firm or something. So I was happy that they didn't put them all in the same place because that would have been super weird.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. All right, so we'll go to Casey Fred next. If you were the director or producer of this movie, what would you change or do differently?
Okay, so I said this was average. So it's basically boy, meets girl, boy loses girl, boy gets girl. And that's how most pretty much all romantic movies are. But I would have changed it to where boy meets girl, boy loses girl, and then boy loses girl forever. In a sense, I kind of like, I would have like turned the twist, and like I said,
I like where you're going with this.
I like the simple fact of the name. I'm about to hurt your feelings, Manic, on this one, but where it says your place or mine's, it would have been really cool. Kind of like add the twist to what Amy said, where all of a sudden, the next thing you know, well, it took you 20 years to finally say it, but you know what? you 5 minutes too late. And then all of a sudden she goes ahead and goes with Theo because that's a new career. And then new place or minds, you just all of a sudden now she's in her new career in New York. And then she comes back and he comes and visits and all of a sudden develops a relationship with Jake or whatever. Because one thing, 20 years is just way too long. I mean, it's just way too long for you to be able to all of a sudden share your feelings. And I mean, most people, if they're gonna be best friends or whatever, they usually stay best friends for life. But if you're gonna all of a sudden cross that bridge and go into the sea of love, you need to start swimming, and you need to start swimming quick. That's how it usually works. You don't just all of a sudden let dogs lie, especially for 20 years. So, like I said, that's what I would have changed. I would have just been like, you know what? You should have told me 20 years ago. Now I'm moving on in a different direction. So that's would have been me.
All right. My man Phil, coming to you. You over there brushing your teeth? Teeth white as hell, man.
Man, I gotta floss. I gotta take care of my teeth, man.
I feel you, man. I see that, man. I was like, damn, this cat got a tight teeth regimen over there.
All day. I would have actually like flipped the roles, to be honest. I would have made it to where it was the complete opposite. Like she had the bread, she had the, the whole situation, and he was a single dad, and like just literally completely flip. That's what I'd like to see. Just
that would have been tight. I like that
because I'm tired of seeing the man end up being the one that's like, I'm here, I'm trying, like what the hell, and the girl's like, oh, I have nothing, and because it was irritating, like the fact
take me as I am.
Yeah, exactly.
This is my story, like, my truth.
I don't have nothing, but you love me, so I'm gonna take everything you have. We're gonna share it together. It's like, no, like it. I want to see the opposite. I want to see a dude down bad, single dad, all this shit, and then be like, all right, now let's have her go after him and say we're best friends and let's work it out. That's what I would like to see. That's what I would change.
Yeah, definitely would like that twist.
I'll watch that.
Yeah, I watch that too. That'd be a good twist.
All right, Manic. If you were the director or producer of this movie, what would you change or do differently?
I mean, I never looked at it like what Phil said, so I think that would be that'd be an interesting movie. That's a good change, and then keep everything the same. But if I didn't do that, and I really like this movie, so the things I would change first and foremost, I thought the acting was really good and was really great actually. So I say this with like an asterisk, I would replace the actors. I would have made, Reese Witherspoon, I guess you could have kept her, but made her like maybe like a hotter version, like maybe put like Margot Robbie or something. And then instead of Ashton Kutcher, I would have used like a less in shape, actor. Cause Ashton Kutcher, he's got the height thing, he's got the strong jawline, like, even if he's a bum, like there's going to be women who are just going to like line up for a guy like that. So I would have made the male actor, maybe a little bit out of shape, cause it would have just lined up better. This is like, man, she's super hot and he had this opportunity. He's funny. And, it would kind of like justify him putting her on such a pedestal because, I think we all discussed like, hey, 20 years is a long time for a dude who kind of has everything going for him. I mean, the dude has the job, he has the, financial resources, he has the charisma, based on the women that showed up in his life, even though they're staying for 6 months, like he's not struggling out here. So for him to go from like dealing with these great looking women who are professional to like, hey, I'm gonna take this, single mom who kind of makes, who's very controlling and he's like a free spirit. Or he's not a free spirit, but he kind of does his own thing. She's like very controlling. It just wouldn't seem like a good fit. So I would definitely change the main actor and main actress, not because they're acting, but solely based on to like match up with kind of like the storyline. And then I would have changed the scene with her sleeping with Theo. I would have made it so that they had a really great time, but she did have her test and her exam, and she was just like, I just don't want to cross that line yet, but I really do like you. And like, let's kind of keep this thing going. And that would have made more sense. And then I would have made Ashton, still see them together in his home, and him just assume that they went through with it. And then he would have hey, I need a babysitter. I'm going out. And then I would have made Ashton Kutcher actually, sleep with the girl at the bar because like he hadn't seen her in years and she was attractive. She was coming on to him and he was already like upset and distraught. So, I mean, that would have been like more in line with like,
Men.
yeah, exactly. It'd have been more realistic because it's just like, hey, man, he's out here. He's been watching this kid for this week, and then he sees a girl that he has like feelings for, with another dude in his place, and he's like, man, I'm going out. I'm going to, do my thing, and then it just came like that, and she wasn't bad looking, so I would have made him go through with that act, but I would have made him like, maybe afterwards, she's like, hey, so what's going on with this, and he's just like, you know what? I'm still thinking about such and such. And they would have had like a little small scene where she understands and she's like, yeah, I kind of knew, but I just kind of wanted to do this anyway. And I think you should really go after her. And it'd have been like like a little bit extra encouragement, like after he would have knocked it down. I think that would have been like a more realistic.
Boomerang.
That would have been.
That would have been the right penthouse forums or something.
I think that would have been like more in line with like what realistically would have happened with a successful, good looking man who's single with no kids and who drives a Porsche.
It was rented.
He's still driving it.
Yeah, rentals for those type of cars is steep. So yeah.
Even the rentals for that, that insurance and all that. So it's just like, he's the total package. Like, what you seen his New York high rise? That's not
true. Good
that's
point.
New York. That probably like $8,000 a month.
Hey, his place was so nice. It even got the other guy laid.
It did. That nice.
But yeah, man, if I was gonna change this movie, what I would have done differently, like I definitely like with all you guys the twist you had, but like if they were gonna make them like I'll say end up with each other, I think they should have made like Ashton's character like Manic was kind of saying, like this top niche guy got all this stuff together, had like all these like high class females that he was like with, because they had their stuff together. So that I think that's what kind of made it unbelievable, where it's just like Fred said, after 20 years and the lady in the first scene was like very attractive, career driven. It seemed like she had a lot of stuff going on. So it's just like you're gonna move on, honestly, with something like that. So yeah, they should have made him where it was just like, they could have still done the rich thing, but not over the top like Playboy. And then also, like, I think if they were going to make sure that him and Reese got together, maybe they should have made him like a dad and he had a daughter. That way it's just like, I think Reese's, son needed like that father element. And then his daughter kind of needed that mother type element. So that would have been a good crossover. And then I also thought like what Amy was kind of pointing out was the one guy she met in New York. She didn't have to make him. They didn't have to make him where he was just so over the top. Like they lined up with everything. They had all those things in common. He was even, I'll say better than Ashton at that point. So yeah, I thought that was unbelievable. Where both of these like top tier dudes is like, just getting their hearts crushed and stuff like that. So I think they played over the top on that. They could have made it more believable. Like toned it down on the looks category and stuff like that. Like you said, give these dudes dad bods and stuff. They could have had Seth Rogen up there.
Yeah, I was just about to say Jack Black, like replace Ashton Kutcher, Jack Black, Seth Rogen, like.
Yeah, so I think they went over the top with like the two guys, like made them just too high, on that tier where it's just like they would have moved on, especially after like the disrespect. Ashton would have been like, I'm out of there. Like after you saw that video. He probably wouldn't have made no scene, but he was just, he would have definitely, like most guys would just be like, all right, I'm done at that point. So yeah, I think those would definitely would have been the major changes that I would have made to the movie. So does anybody else have anything to add in? Like if anybody else missed any elements?
One thing to add was so if we talk about like what people's were doing, she was like a senior accountant. She was doing her classes to be the regional senior accountant or something. So it's not like she was not taking care of herself. Just wanted to point that out.
Nah, she
because
was
we don't
old.
know what the other women were doing, but she was educated and she was taking care of business because she said the reason she was doing that class was because of like a medication issue for her son or something, but the cost of the medication. But she was applying for regional senior accountant or something. So she definitely had her stuff together. She wasn't just like, you know, I feel like we were putting her in that bucket, and she
I
was
thought she
not
had
in
like
that bucket.
multiple jobs. Like she kept on changing stuff, and she was just like unsure. That's what I kind of got from it.
You weren't paying attention.
Yeah,
Nah,
I
I was
definitely
paying
fell
attention.
asleep.
She was a bum.
She was an accountant.
She was a
100% bum. I could
she was a
be an
bum.
accountant anywhere, making $10 an hour. So I don't want to hear it.
She was an accountant.
No, she was a straight.
definitely.
Listen, she worked her title. If you looked at the first scene where she's sitting at her desk, where her title was bookkeeper for the school that her son worked for. So it's like not librarian, not like you're the traditional. I don't know how much bookkeepers make, but that's what her actual
Yeah,
job was.
great job, AIM. She's really
okay,
up there on
look,
that corporate
look
ladder.
at
She was a
the
bum.
job she wanted was like regional senior accountant for this school district.
Hey, the job I wanted to be president, but ain't gonna happen.
Yeah.
I want to be
Yeah,
an
yeah,
astronaut.
astronaut.
So-
I'm trying to be a CEO of a company tomorrow, but hey, that's gonna take me a long time to get
Hey,
there.
yo, Phil, you trying to be the CEOs together, bro?
Listen,
No.
what you want to do, bro? I'm with
Hey,
it.
let's just take over Fortune 500.
Let's take it over. Take it over. Look, because we want to do it, right? Got it. Yeah.
I'm just saying she was educated. But with that, I don't know if you guys caught this. I just thought about it. Minga, during one of the school scenes, also mentioned that, like, she was like, after I got my master's in like something
Differential
calculus. Yeah. So I was like, that came out of nowhere, but I liked it.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it just seemed like she was just kind of over the place. Like you said, not a bum, because I mean, she was going out there trying, but it's like for that guy, like where he was at, like turning down like companies, like they were like damn near throwing rolls at him, like, hey man, we want to keep you.
We want you to be.
So
our
just to have
CEO.
that like polar opposite, like I said, I think they like played him up, his like status and all that, just in real life. Like, not to say he might not want her and stuff like that, but he's definitely gonna move on after he saw that scene. That's why I was like, they did too much in that. Like you said, AIM. I think they should have removed that scene right there. I think, and then it would have connected better. Like, just have them go out and there was be a deep connection. They got to, but she would have moved on. But yeah, any guy like watching that video would have been like, okay, yeah, that's a wrap. Like,
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And that's why I rewound at the end to see, okay, wait, what agency did they say she went with? Because if they say his, there's no way that would have happened in real life.
but I'm definitely gonna have to go back. I'm gonna go watch that right when we get off that scene that Manic was talking. I think Manic's wrong, man. I'll tell you. I think he was just
I could be wrong. I could be wrong, but
yeah, I think he was just
I really
more or less
felt
like
like-
wanting to be in that role. But I think he was just like, hanging around trying to like get some type of relationship with her.
That's the way I originally took it. But then when Manic said that and I started thinking about it, I was like, wait a minute.
Yeah, watch that scene again. We should all watch that scene again. Casey Frey, you gonna watch it again?
No, thank you.
Fred said, nah.
have a
He said
part
he's
two.
good.
We just break down that scene.
Thanks to Amy's comments, I think I want to put you down to a 4.5 now.
Yeah. After Amy and Manic's breakdown.
Counting on you, Casey Frey.
Well, you making me feel like this was like Pretty Woman, but she had a son
Great
this
movie.
time. You know what I'm saying? The guy is tycoon, but the chick ain't up to par. I don't know. I my whole thing from this whole movie, I really kind of felt like, and I always say something at the end, and that is life is short. So if you're gonna love now. And I felt like that was the theme of this whole movie. Because I'm sorry, if CLS was here, he would probably say it don't take however many minutes this movie was. It don't take that long to tell somebody how you really feel. And so 20 years, I'm sorry, that's just way too long. And I feel like this movie was way too long for them to finally express their love, especially at the airport. You should.
I mean, especially for a guy like his type, like where he's kind of a player, and he's taking over like corporate industry. So it's like, man, he really has no fear. So it's like he's not going to be scared to like express himself. Like kind of where he's at and his personality, how it lined up and stuff. So that's why I just think like they try to do too much for his character, where they at least should have made him nerdier, like Manic was saying, or downplayed his role a little bit, you know, where it would have lined up a lot better. And then I just definitely agree with Aim. Like the guy that they introduced that connected with her, like my man was like smooth and stuff, you know. So it's like definitely after my man got her, it would have been a wrap. She would have been moving to New York.
Already had a job waiting for her.
Yeah. She was like, look, this is a wrap. Like, so yeah, I think they just like did too much. So, but all right, we'll go ahead and close this out. We'll go around real quick. Any closing words? We'll start with the Manic Genius.
I just want to say, great movie, and not to shit on bookkeepers, because I think it was I respect all professions, but just in this movie, in comparison to being offered a chief management officer position and damn near being begged for it, it's like you compare that to a bookkeeper. It's like, yeah, she's a bum. But yeah, you can find me on IG. The Manic Genius.
All right, my man Phil. Any part words? Where can we find you at?
Yeah, so you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. If you don't open your mouth, closed mouth doesn't get fed. Don't let the potentially love of your life walk away because you're afraid to say something. And then you can follow me on TikTok, Phil_Pack.
Phil was dropping some heavy game right there.
Yeah, I like that.
All right, Aim. Any parting words? Where can we find you at?
You can find me if you know me in real life. Otherwise,
That's what I'm talking about.
I liked the movie. I feel like I want to give it a 6.527, but I'm kind of critical on the rating scale. But I thought it was good. Like I said, I like both of them. I agree with what Phil said, and I think Fred, everybody actually.
Did you agree with me at all?
Waited a long time. No, I did not. No, sometimes I did, but I thought it was a good movie. Like I said, I watched it a few times, so I think you just have to pay attention, and you'll get all those little hidden gems.
Are you throwing a shot?
All I'm saying is when I watched it with my significant other, I was laughing at parts he wasn't. I was getting scenes he didn't seem to get. We'll leave it at that. If you know me, you know me.
So could it be that probably you're not that bright? I mean, maybe he was just like
oh, opposite way. Fred's turn.
And thanks, Amy. I appreciate that. This movie here, like I said, I'm looking forward to Christmas when the snow comes. And like you said, that's when all of a sudden you can really get into some serious storylines, some plots. But the biggest thing of it is if you like someone, tell them. And I know they say actions speak louder than words, but when it came to this movie, all you needed was a few words, and that would have changed all the action of 20 years. And so I felt like, to me, yo, man, it don't take that long to tell someone how you feel. And because life is short and we got COVID and everything else is going on, what are you waiting for? You know, literally, what are you waiting for? And you just letting life pass you by if all of a sudden you're going to let this person that can really be a game changer all of a sudden just slip through your fingers. So that was my thing. KC Fred, definitely IG, Twitter, and Facebook. And like I said, I'm always down for movies. So I love this. Thank you for having me. It's good to see you, Amy.
All right, my takeaway for this movie is get rich and don't look back. I know everybody's saying, you know, say something quick, but it's like, get your bread, man. The world is your playground. Ashton, he should have just kept it moving. You know, he had the bread, the whips, the females. He should have just kept it pushing, you know. So yeah, that's just my takeaway. Just get the bread and keep it moving. Enjoy life. But all right, we'll go ahead and close this one out. Thanks again for tuning in. See you next time. Peace.